Ewart, are you hearing me, Ewart?
We hearing you. We hearing you, Joanna. Yes.
Excellent.
Good, great, thanks. Hello, good
Hi,
night.
Aisha.
Welcome.
Good evening, Ms. Lafeuillee.
Welcome to Legalize this 8th day of February 2026, the day after our the celebration of our 52nd anniversary of independence. And before we get going, I just want to recognize those sponsoring this program. Jail Professional Solutions Inc., GMFM carrying this program on FM radio out of Canada, and also Grenadian Technical and Allied Workers Union. Good evening and welcome once again. Tonight we continue a conversation that clearly struck a nerve with many Grenadians at home and abroad. That's the issue of citizenship. Specifically, we are asking a question that sounds simple, but turns out to be legally complex. Can the grandchildren of Grenadians claim Grenadian citizenship? And if not, why not? Many people listening tonight have a Grenadian grandmother or grandfather. They grew up hearing Grenadian stories, eating Grenadian food, claiming Grenadian as home. And yet, when they approach the law, they are often told you are not a citizen. Is that fair? Is it intentional? And is it something that can or should be changed? To help us unpack the law, the history, and the reform options, we are joined tonight by Attorney-at-Law Johanan Lafeuillee.
You're close enough.
This is not just a legal discussion. It's about identity, belonging, and how Grenada sees its diaspora in a modern world. Good night, my co-host Aisha.
Good night, Mr. Layne. Good night to the audience listening and viewing. Happy to be back with you guys.
Good night, Joanna. Good night to all those viewing.
Good night, and thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. You both. I'm happy to be here, and I think that it's not only topical but a very relevant discussion. As we're already over the hill, over 50, we're 52 now, and these are some discussions that need to happen.
Yes, indeed. So I don't know if I can start, Joanna, by just asking you, what's significant about being a citizen of Grenada?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that question. Let me start by saying that outside of just the pride and belonging and the cultural ties and the roots and just everything that Grenada represents, as we know, there are individuals across the world who are paying upwards from 235,000 United States dollars all the way over to 400,000 US dollars to obtain Grenada citizenship. And sometimes I ask myself whether Grenadians themselves really understand the value of that Grenadian citizenship, which of course comes with a Grenadian passport. And just to give you a little synopsis of what that looks like. Grenada is a very tax-friendly jurisdiction. So compared to many other countries, Grenada is very tax efficient. You're talking on worldwide, no taxation, depending on the structure on worldwide income, no gift tax, no capital gains tax. So if you have a property, for example, and in 5 years or so you sell that property and you realize a profit, you don't pay taxes on that. And whereas countries, for example, like the United States and others, you have to pay what's called a capital gains tax. Just moving away from taxation, Grenada has signed on to, well, I know it's a little touchy right now to talk even about the E2 framework that we signed on with the United States, but still it's there. And it was one reason as well why Grenada became such an attractive jurisdiction to have, hold a Grenadian citizenship, because then it allowed you to essentially open a business in the United States and run a legitimate business and even sponsor persons to come into the United States through that E2 business. But I'm not going to touch anything more on that. Other benefits involve purchase of land. So if you're not a Grenada citizen, you have to pay, you have to obtain an alien land holding license, and
Okay.
that's around 10% the value of the property that you're purchasing. As a Grenadian, you don't have to pay that. And there are a number of other things that I can go into, but just to give a synopsis of what it means to be Grenada from an economic perspective, an investment perspective, and now coming to just the ties. Being Grenadian means resilience. It means freedom to roam, freedom to be, freedom to find yourself, freedom to root. We experience and we enjoy a level of freedom here in this country that many other countries do not enjoy. And now coming just to the cultural ties, and I mean, you could even help me with this. Being Grenada is like a pot of oil down. It's sweet, it's savory. There are different textures. There's attitude. I love it. And that's just my synopsis on what it is to be Grenadian.
Okay, good. Now,
So
how
on the
how can
heels of
one?
independence,
Sorry, yes, go ahead.
Mr. Lane, I just wanted to chime in on Miss Lafeuillee. McLean.
Aisha, please, my name is Johanan. Thank you very much.
Well, I let the audience know Johanan is also a colleague. She's an attorney at law, just in case it is that we didn't give a brief background as her. She's an attorney at law. She frequents the courts in Grenada, and so I will be calling her Johanan this evening. On the heels of independence, I think it was very important and relevant to have this type of discussion, and we're very happy to have you here. It appears as though on the onset, persons don't understand the value in which it is to be a citizen of Grenada, and I'm glad that you were able to steer us into that direction from the onset. So I do believe that the discussion will be very relevant this evening. Mr. Lin, you could continue.
And just
Yes.
before Ewart goes forward, just to add a little pinch here, just to add to what you said, Aisha, in this, look at what's happening to us geopolitically as a world, as an experience, a human being living in the earth at this time. There is also a level of comfort to having a tie to a nation island. Islands have always been like a place of refuge, a place of solace, a place to hide. And we saw this true even in COVID-19 when things were falling left, right, and center in the metropolis. To some extent, we as Grenadians, we as Caribbean people, we as island people, we had a sort of different experience. And even we remember many Caribbean states, even Grenada at one point, in the thick and thin of COVID, said only citizens can return. You remember that? And no visitors were allowed. And so there is, having being Grenadian is also like a hedge fund. It is a safety net for persons in the diaspora who parents were Grenadian, who grandparents were Grenadian. At this time, families, it's not a luxury anymore. I tell Grenadians, listen, if you leave here and you have your family, you start your family overseas, don't be like some Grenadians who never get the passport for their children. Go ahead and get it. It's a safety net. You just never know. Look, there's talk about this whole world order that's going to change, a new world order. We don't know. So we still to a large extent, the part of the population that don't really know what's happening 90% of the time until after the fact. So being connected to an island, and in this case, Grenada, is also a safety net. It's part of, I tell people, see it as part of your estate planning. See it as part of your international estate planning. Yeah.
So, what are all the different ways one can become a Grenadian citizen, or people can become a Grenadian citizen?
Yes. So there right now there is about 6 to 7 pathways to becoming Grenada citizen, including citizenship by investment. So you have, and I'm just going to name a few. I'm not going to do an exhaustive list. You being born in Grenada, automatically you're a Grenadian. Through a parent who was born in Grenada. And we know that there's a little discrimination in the Constitution concerning persons born to fathers who are not married. You act. I know you're very passionate about that. So that you can become a citizen of Grenada if your mother was Grenadian, let's start there, and if your father was married when he had you. Okay, then you can also become Grenada through naturalization, marriage, living here, doing the residency period, and then applying for citizenship. And I think I've covered about 4 or 5 right now, but there are different pathways. Let's just put it at that. I believe that the Citizenship Act even allows the minister responsible for citizenship to grant citizenship to someone who has come to serve without them having satisfied that residency period. So there are different pathways to becoming Grenadian.
Is there any pathway under the Constitution for grandchildren of Grenadians to become Grenadians?
Unfortunately, the Constitution itself does not speak to grandchildren becoming Grenadian. So, under the Constitution, put it frankly, grandchildren are not eligible. However, there is a little door under the Constitution. I like to call it a little door because it allows some discretion and leeway for Parliament. That's section 100. What?
Yes, section
Right.
99. Can you
99, my
maybe
apologies.
just put up that the
Correct.
Constitution?
If you could just put that up, please.
That's
So I
okay.
say that section 99 is a little door that the framers of the Constitution saw it fit to include. There's a little door hinge in there to give Parliament the power to open things up, to say, okay, even if they're not grandchildren are not eligible, not only grandchildren, but anyone who isn't eligible, the Parliament can exercise its powers to allow for citizenship and eligibility where the Constitution has not so allowed. And that is where we get the whole body of citizenship by investment laws, which encapsulates the investment migration framework that Grenada is a part of. And so, yes, in 2016, Parliament saw it fit to so legislate and allow, in particular, Section 5A, to allow for grandchildren to apply for Grenada citizens if they meet 3 criteria. You want me to go into those 3 criteria now?
Before, I just want to look at this section we were speaking about.
Certainly.
Section 99.
If you see me looking down, I am following the Constitution on my mobile. So yes, just wanting to be part of it.
No, the Constitution, the Citizenship Chapter 7 Bentley.
Excuse me?
Yes, that's the citizenship.
Yes, Chapter 7 of the Constitution.
You go to section 99. So that's what you're speaking about, Joanne. Powers of Parliament.
Yes. So let me read it here. If you can read it here. Powers of Parliaments. Section 99, subsection 99(1). And this, as you indicated, falls under Chapter 7, which speaks to citizenship. So that is why you right. Parliament may make provision for the acquisition of citizenship of Grenada by persons who are not eligible or who are no longer eligible to become citizens of Grenada under the provisions of this chapter. And it goes on, sub 2, which talks about Parliament may even make provision for depriving of citizenship, right? And for the new renunciation by any person of his citizenship of Grenada. So let's stick to 99(1), that Parliament may open that little door to make provision for eligibility where the Constitution does not so allow.
Right. And you're saying that Parliament exercised that power and they passed a law in 2016.
Correct.
That permits for grandchildren. So let's just look at it.
Yes. Can you pull that up on the screen?
Yes, we'll put it up. You just take us.
Thank you.
Take us through it. That's a 2016 Act, Bentley.
Correct. At the time, Governor General was Cecil E.F. Lagranade. 25th January 2016. Act number 4 of 2016. Iwat, if
It's
you could
called,
care to lend your male baritone to reading the acts, I'd appreciate
mm,
it.
okay, so I'm not seeing it clearly on the screen, so I have to read it from my computer.
Sure.
So if you give me a second, I'll be right
I
here
have
with
no
you.
difficulty assisting as I can see it clearly here.
And I'm
Um,
just
I
seeing
check,
an orange screen on my
I
end.
check, let me read it first.
yes, no problem
Sure.
at all.
Uh,
The Principal Act is amended by inserting after Section 5 the following new section: registration of descendants of
Oh,
citizens.
sorry, Aisha. Can you start reading from the very top? An act amend.
Oh, sorry.
Hmm.
Okay. An act to amend the Citizenship Act, Chapter 54, to provide for a person with a grandparent who is registered as a citizen to be registered as a citizen.
Correct.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate and the House of Representatives, and by the authority of the same as follows. This act may be cited as Citizenship Amendment Act 2016 and shall be read as one with the Citizenship Act Chapter 54, hereinafter referred to as the Principal Act.
Mm-hmm.
The Principal Act is amended by inserting after Section 5 the following new section: registration of descendants of citizens of Grenada. So it's 5A1. Upon application made to the minister in the prescribed manner, the minister may cause any person of full age and capacity who was born outside of Grenada to parents who were at no time citizens of Grenada to be registered as a citizen if the minister is satisfied: A, that the person has a grandparent who is or was a citizen of Grenada; B, that he or she is of good character; C, that he or she intends, if registered, to be or continue to be in service of the state of Grenada. 2,
Mm-hmm.
a person shall not be registered under subsection 1 unless he or she takes the oath of allegiance.
Mm-hmm.
3,
So you could stop there for a while because then sub 3 talks about deprivation and all of that, and but for the purposes of the discussion, yes, I believe that it's what you read is sufficient. You what?
yes, so take us through this. This act is to provide
Right.
for grandchildren.
Correct. Now, let me start by saying the act actually is very wide in its parameters because it doesn't say grandparents born in Grenada. It says a grandparent who is registered as a citizen. So it goes quite a bit beyond the Constitution to say once your grandparent was registered as a citizen, you, the grandchild, once you meet criteria A, B, C, can apply to be registered as a citizen, right? Once you satisfy the minister of the three things, the three criteria, that the person has a grandparent. So in this case, it's not even saying a married grandfather. You remember this whole thing under the Constitution with the unmarried father.
Yes.
It is I would say it is very generous in its parameters here. So once your grandparent was registered as a citizen, in accordance with the act, it does not matter whether your grandparent was born here. Once you can show that your grandparent was a citizen at some point, that you are a good character, and that you intend, once you are registered, to continue to be in service or to be in service to the states. And finally, once you take the oath of allegiance, that is basically the parameters to satisfy. So do you have any questions for me?
Yes, well, I'm just throwing out some things I've heard some people raise. And I don't know if it's just a drafting issue or if it is something that is upset. Uh, Material being something that is important. The reference to being registered as a grandparent. what it says exactly, it says, let me just get the exact wording.
Mhm.
Uh, just go back to the top, although these are,
Right. It says an act to amend the Citizenship Act, Chapter 54, to provide for a person with a grandparent who is registered as a citizen to be registered as a citizen.
okay, but so
And
why
this
that
is,
requirement,
sorry?
why the requirement for the grandparent to be registered as a citizen?
Well, I guess you have to have a line of descent somewhere because this act says even if the parent was not born in Grenada, once the grandparent is a Grenadian,
They have a line.
then that grandchild rather, can make the application to the minister responsible.
Right, so your take is that it applies to once the grandparent is a Grenadian, whether registered or automatically a Grenadian because you're born there, that applies, right?
Correct, because remember, in practice, the having a Grenada passport, once you're Grenadian, it's included Grenadian. That's how I got well, I'm not sure if you know of my circumstance. My mother is Grenadian. My mother and father were married. My father is St. Lucian. I happened to be born in St. Lucia. I left there when I was about 2. I am more Grenadian than anything. You know what I'm saying? I know a little
Mhm.
slither of patois, but I am Grenadian. This is where I grew up. This is where I know. And
Mhm.
I never had to apply for Grenada citizenship. I just went, I showed my mother's birth certificate, as I remember as a child, and I got a Grenada passport. And in that passport, my record is in there as being Grenadian. So technically, the question of quote unquote being registered as a Grenadian, I mean, that's up to debate, but I don't think we should read much into it.
Read much into it.
My take of the act, I like to stick to the meaning as clear as it has intended. Once a grandparent was registered as a Grenadian, so whether it is by birth certificate to show that yes, because the birth certificate is a form of registration, we
Mhm.
could be argued that it's a form of registration to demonstrate that you were born in Grenada, or whether that grandparent got it through marriage. Once they can show that they were registered Grenadian, um, and whichever way the grandparent got the citizenship, whether even through natural, like doing the residency and then applying to become citizen of Grenada, whichever
Mhm.
way, to me, the act is clear. Once a grandparent was registered as a Grenadian, this opens the opportunity for any one of their grandchildren, once they meet the criteria, satisfying the minister, the opportunity to apply for Grenada citizenship.
So I'm seeing Jackie McKenzie, who, as you know, is an immigration law specialist. She's asking, so the grandchildren of CBI registrants can apply for Grenadian citizenship according to that section? That's a
No,
question she's asking.
let me speak to the citizenship by investment. On ground and in practice, in theory, in principle, the citizenship by investment laws govern all aspects of citizenship and inheritance for persons who got economic citizenship. So that body of laws govern the passing down of citizenship and all of that. Now, today or tomorrow, if an attorney at law is retained to pursue some citizenship application under section 5A, where one of their grandparents would have gotten Grenada citizenship through CBI. I mean, who knows? An attorney could go and make a case on it. However, on the ground, in practice, in theory, and all intentions of Parliament, the citizenship by investment laws are its own body of laws that govern economic citizenship and passing down through descent and the like.
Okay. The other issue I have Again, I don't know if it's just a drafting matter. But if you can just go down a bit, go down a bit so we can see the section better. It says here that upon application
Which
made,
section?
the same section 5A.
5A1, sub 1?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be saying that the people who qualify are adults,
Correct.
right, who were born outside of Grenada
Mm-hmm.
and whose parents were at no time citizens of Grenada.
Correct.
So what it would mean is that uh, if your father or mother is a citizen of Grenada, let's say through inheritance. So let me give an example. Uh,
Like my case.
like in your case, good.
Mm-hmm.
It would mean that your children cannot qualify under this provision.
No, and that is the thing with drafting, huh? And interpretation. That is the thing about legislative drafting and interpretation. And the question of whether the drafters or the parliament so intended. No, let me tell you, and this is not, don't hold me to this, but this is the going story among the attorneys in Grenada, at least perhaps what came through, right? What I understand, and this is alleged, that this law was passed to facilitate Lewis Hamilton representing Grenada.
I don't think it was Lewis. It wasn't Lewis.
It was not, who was it?
The story I heard, it sounds
Well, this is oil now. Go ahead. Show in your back and neck.
Lewis didn't require that because in any case, uh, he ran in the Olympics in 2016.
He did Olympics in 2016?
Not Lewis Hamilton. Just forget his name. He was in the finals together with Kirani in 2016 Olympics. I think he came fifth or he came sixth or seventh, but he made the final.
So this had nothing to do with Lewis Hamilton.
That's what I understand. It had nothing to do with Lewis Hamilton whatsoever.
But it had to do with some athletes.
It had to do with an athlete who wanted to represent Grenada in the Olympics.
Yes.
Brandon Taplin, that's the name. Brandon Taplin.
Yes. But I'm saying, even if that were the case, the way that this law is so intentionally generous, I don't, if for example, if Parliament's intention was only for one person to benefit, they would have said that.
I don't think it was only for one person. That's
correct. Correct.
That's true, yeah.
But just to answer your question, I'm going back to section 5A1. Upon application made to the minister may cause any person of full age and capacity who was born outside Grenada to parents who were at no time citizens of Grenada to be registered as a citizen if the minister is satisfied. Now, this brings up a very important point. Now, this is administrative, huh?
Mm-hmm.
There are many stories coming out from persons who were born to individuals who were Grenadian. So listen, like me, my mother is Grenadian. I was born to my mother. There are stories coming out where, in attempting to apply for Grenada citizenship, some of them are being told no. No, again, alleged, right? Some of them are being told that they do not qualify to apply. Some of them are being told that they have to meet the residency requirements before they get citizenship. And some of them are even told that they have to go through citizenship by investment. So it appears as well in practice that many of the persons in the front facing in some of the government offices, perhaps not just only in Grenada. A lot of the stories are coming out of the UK. It appears that there are varying theories that are being put forward, and some of them are downright wrong. It's some of them are not in keeping with the law, not in keeping with the Constitution. Well, the discussion tonight is not on children per se, but as you and I know, the Constitution is clear as to the acquisition of citizenship for persons like myself, who, I mean, I never had to apply. However, again, there's another concerning thing coming out here. I understand from last year, a certain office, a government office, was putting forward a theory that persons like myself, when I am renewing my passport next time, I will have to apply for citizenship. And I find that to be a little over the top because the Constitution is clear as to my rights automatically at birth. I got this right to citizenship through my mother. So at the same time, I am a bit understanding to the administrative processes and them, working through some of the knots because again, it could become administratively chaotic if you don't have a clear system of recognition. Because anybody could come and say, this person was my mother. You could even have a situation where a Grenadian has an exact name as somebody else. And somebody come forward and say, well, this was my mother. Or they bring some certificate with a name on it, with a birth paper to show that some parent. And so it's fine lines. It's also working through kinks in the system. So I am still understanding that perhaps at some point the administrators believe that we have to have a clear system to identify the genuine applicants from the fake, because I'm sure that there are those who also try to defraud the system. As I said, Grenada citizenship is a very valuable thing to have.
Yeah,
And
but then there's a process. You have to submit your parents' birth certificate and other documentation.
correct. In my case, I submitted my mother's birth certificate
Right.
and my birth certificate to show her
And they will
name
verify
on.
that.
Yes, correct. However,
The Constitution
we
says it's
know.
automatic.
Say that again.
I think the Constitution says it's automatic once you establishes those things.
Correct. The Constitution says it's automatic. However, last year, and it was a discussion amongst colleagues as well at the bar. The administrators were saying that persons like myself now have to make a separate application. And I, of course, I advocated against it because the Constitution is clear that once I satisfy that my mother is my mother, she's Grenadian, and that I'm her daughter, automatically by reason of the Constitution. In fact, the Constitution says at birth, I became Grenadian at birth without having to make any application.
Yeah, so I'm sure if they answer that of you, you're gonna challenge it to the court.
Well, no, I hope it doesn't get to challenge. Well, thankfully, I think last year I had to renew and I didn't have an issue. I went, I renew, I got it prioritized and I got my passport. Everybody know that I am Johanan and my mother is my mother.
So Jacqueline Mackenzie is saying again, the no time resident of Grenada clause makes no sense. Seems to be more of benefit to CBI registrants. The people in the diaspora seeking registration through this route will almost all have a grandparent born in or resident in Grenada. I don't know if she was clear on exactly the but let me just continue. So so it can be your parent or grandparent, somebody's accent. And let me just read the last one. And Aisha, I'll let you take
Yes,
over. I think one
Sheldon.
of the,
Sheldon says, I presented my birth certificate and my mother's birth certificate, as well as a signed affidavit from my uncle, my mother's brother. Even brought her certificate of marriage and baptismal certificate. I don't know whether or not. Well, Sheldon had proof beyond reasonable doubt at this point here, so I
Mhm.
assume he was able to get citizenship. But I
yes,
think he
yes,
was
yes.
just listing the documents that he used to
Like you could
Okay, to
document.
prove. Well,
application.
he went a little over the top. I like that. He
Yeah,
wanted
yeah. I
to
mean,
make
he has to be
sure.
sure.
No reason at all.
Well, you know what, Ewart? I want us to go here a little bit. You know, they're saying mommy's baby, daddy's maybe.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm, mm.
Right? Mommy's baby, daddy's maybe. I know we're not talking about children tonight. We're talking about
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren. But as you and I know, there is a discriminatory provision within the Constitution that says children born to Grenadian fathers who are unmarried at the time of their birth or who
Mm-hmm.
didn't get married to their mother after their birth, those children fall through the
Mm-hmm.
cracks. They don't get Grenada citizenship. However, those children, once they reach the age of majority, providing that there's a grandparent who is Grenadian, and as I say, registered Grenadian could mean your grandparents have the birth certificate for the purposes of argument's sake, right? Because I don't see how they could seek to benefit grandchildren or persons who were grandparents who were not born in Grenada. That doesn't that's to me I don't see how Parliament could have intended that. So for the purposes of the discussion, once that child, even though quote unquote, I don't like to use the word illegitimate, but born to an unmarried Grenada father does not, under the Constitution, is not eligible for citizenship under the Constitution. This Section 5A, in its generous proportions, seem to allow for even those children, once there is a grandparent that was Grenadian, to so apply under this section. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thought is this, that citizenship through this process gives the minister the power, the discretion to tell you no. A.
Correct.
B, you can get it and then it can be taken away from you. Yeah?
Yes.
Correct.
However, the provision we speak of where children born to Grenadian parents, that is part of their birthright. It is automatic. Once you're born and you can establish that your parent, your father or mother, hopefully the wedlock, out of wedlock part will be removed. So once you
Mm-hmm.
can establish father or mother, then automatically you are a Grenadian citizen. If you're born out of wedlock, no fault of yours, absolutely no fault of yours, you have nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, in today's world, not a basis for treating a child differently,
Correct.
right? And you can have ridiculous situations, you can have a father born in Grenada, he goes to, let's say, the US, okay? And he has children with two different women.
Mm-hmm.
He
Or
gets married,
seven, or seven.
he gets married to one, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The child he has with that one is automatically a Grenadian citizen. But the child he has out of wedlock is treated differently. So that's the kind of unfairness. I think,
Let me ask a question, Hewart.
mhm.
What, going back to that father with the two mother situation, what if that father is married to one, and while he is married to that one, he has a child with someone else? He is married.
No, but the child was born within the marriage. It's not just the
The
father, but the
child
mother.
was born. Okay, let me ask. Just putting it right. We're having a discussion. What
Yeah.
if the child that he has with the person outside, he decides to his wife embraces that child as his own. The child comes into the family. The child is part of the original family. What happens?
As the law stands now, that child will still be discriminated against because the
To me,
child
the
was not
Constitution
born.
doesn't speak as far as that.
No. Well, it's something that cries out to be put right. And
Correct.
the
Correct.
parliament can put it right. I see Captain Mackenzie has another one. I don't know if you
Yes, let
can.
me read first. Can the panel address the problem with the diaspora? The problem the diaspora are experiencing in respect to names. In my own case, my mother's family name, her father's last name, is spelled differently to how it appears on mine. I have been told that I may need to change my mother's name by default. There's significant other evidence that I am her daughter. I can't rely on my father, who was not Grenadian. There are many people in diaspora, as we saw with the Windrush scandal, of people who have different names, spellings, absent. I assume names. I'm not going to see the rest of the comments.
Right. So I see what I gather here is that there's an issue with the last name used. Her last name is spelled differently to her mother's one. And actually, I had a similar situation where my last name spelled on my birth certificate was not, I think one E was left off when my mother had the
Yeah.
correct spelling. And all I had to do was an affidavit to say is one and the same and that an error was made. So an affidavit there was no need for deed poll or anything, but I would advise that person to secure competent legal counsel to give them some advice. I don't think that's a discussion that we can go into there because I've not had sight of any of the documents or so, but just gathering from what it is she's asking, I believe that there is need for her to secure some consultation.
I think what happened is that quite recently the government departments, school affairs are one of them, put out a statement saying basically that in these cases, you'll have to do a deed poll to make the correction.
I think that's a little bit over the top, respectfully.
Yeah.
I think that yes, it is important to protect because, as I said, Grenadian and Grenada citizenship, etc., it's a value, it's an asset. A lot of Grenadians do not realize that. But in realizing that Grenada citizenship is an asset, let us not begin to deny those who are entitled from so accessing that right because we are so concerned with protection.
So, Johanan, I think what you're saying is that there are some unnecessary barriers to citizenship, and
Oh,
these,
certainly.
yeah.
What if the mother doesn't want to change the name by deed poll? If there is a birth paper, and I'm just going on the scant reading that was done. If on the birth paper it is clear that the applicant, the person that is applying, is the child of the Grenadian mother in this case, why is there the need for any mother to go ahead and change them by deed poll? No. An affidavit, a sworn affidavit will resolve that. It's a
I,
question of facts. I
actually,
don't.
John, my understanding is that this is really influenced by concerns outside of Grenada,
Well, I could understand that as well.
security concerns.
But even
Because
in the United States, let's call it because United States. You're right. The United States. Even in the United States, I do not know. I'm not sure. I beg to differ that the United States will say, okay, well, the mother has to change her name by deed poll. No, 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 no. To me,
the
that
child
is I would have to
or
take a
change
look
the name
into
of
it,
the child.
but to me,
Or
that's a little over the top. It's a little over the top,
yeah,
and
but
it's
that's
costly
that's what it
as
is now
well.
because Remember, the deed poll has to be recorded in the deeds and land registry, so it's public notice. And so, and I think the thing is that this has to be transparent and can't just be an affidavit that you just bring. That's what the wall is because remember, I know of somebody when they were in the 80s, in fact in the late 80s, and they tried to do a transaction for their son. They were suddenly told that the name they've been carrying all their lifetime, you're not entitled to carry that name. Thankfully, at that time, they took an affidavit, but now he will have to do a deed poll. You know, so
No,
that's
Ewart, you know, they have we have situations where persons have home names, and we have situations where they use these home names. Like I have a grandparent. All his life, he grew up being called one thing, and he was enlisted to get training for the World War II. And when he went there, they sweat. I heard they sweat looking for his name. All to find out that his name was totally different.
every
And what I'm
household in Grenada has that story, John. Every
and
household.
what I'm saying, in serving, because at the end of the day, service provided, in serving our Grenada people, we have to take into consideration the unique social realities. And yes, we want to get it right. Yes, we want to be protective. However, we have to be careful that we are exercising I'm not saying tolerance, but I'm saying a bit of even compassion, because it's cost. You cost to go and change a name by deed poll, is cost, is process, is hiring an attorney perhaps, and all of that. They are way, even if they say, listen, we need at least three affidavits, two supporting affidavits, plus and then maybe from somebody in the community like a pastor, a justice of the peace, you can have that. But to say you have to go through deed poll to change your mother's name, what if your mother don't want to change her name? So that means you
I
as a
think that is
child,
very,
under the constitution, that child would have automatically gotten Grenada citizenship at birth. So you mean to tell me the constitution says that child at birth, the constitution didn't say, oh, providing that the mother's name is reflected as a child. No. The constitution is concerned with one thing. At the point of birth, that child becomes Grenada citizenship without making any application for anything.
yeah,
Yes,
but
we understand now.
the passport is not the same issue, Joanna. You get the citizenship, yes. But the passport, remember, that's a document that is used internationally.
Yes,
And
but Ewart,
things being transferred.
and Ewart, what I'm saying, in practice, because I shared my own experience, in practice, the passport that I applied for is my only evidence that I am a Grenadian citizenship, because it's reflected in there as Grenadian. I
And
prove and I am Grenadian.
Jackie Mackenzie's agreeing with you fully.
Correct. Jackie,
She's saying
I
that
agree with you too.
the request for a deed poll is over the top and intrusive. If the person has significant other evidence of who their parents are, in my case, the issue arose because the spelling of the name was changed from Marishaw to Marisho.
Oh, come on.
So
Come
different
on.
documents reflect this.
No, you cannot deny a
And when the
child.
parents have died and you can't get it all done.
Correct. You cannot deny. In fact, she could challenge them constitutionally. This could give rise to a constitutional challenge because she got Grenada citizenship at birth. The
But
constitution never says that this child has to apply.
and they're not taking away citizenship there. It's just the ability to organize a passport and to satisfy the administrative requirements of getting it.
What? I do not care what external pressures or whatever requirements, those external have to bow to the constitution. This is the highest law of our nation. And I see no reason. Now, if you see you have an extraordinary circumstance, let's look at an extraordinary circumstance where a mother's name is reflected as best, last name reflected as best. Or worst case scenario, the names on her birth certificates, none of those names match on the child's birth certificates. No, that's extraordinary. But if you have a situation where best is spelled BEST on the mother's passport, the mother's birth certificate, and on the child, the mother's name is reflected as BESL. It may have been an error in recording. Or in this case, Mary Shaw versus Mary Shaw. Come on. I think a little bit of common sense and
Well,
exercising discretion is important here. But these are just my thoughts.
yes, okay. Uh, we have a few more minutes, Joanna. I just want to ask you, how do you situate your advocacy for grandchildren? I know you're quite passionate about it. How do you situate that in terms of the whole discussion we began now, the discussion that is emerging, that Grenada needs to, we need to supplement our population. We need to add to our.
Correct. Well, that's where I was going to start. Let's take it out of Grenada a little bit. Let's look around CARICOM. You didn't see Auntie Kamala had a baby in her hand, a little teddy bear, encouraging Trinidadians to have more children and giving special even extension of maternity leave and paternity leave, encouraging people to have babies. And look at Barbados.
Mhm.
Barbados is clear. Children, if more children are not born, Barbados will not be able to sustain its economic trajectories, growth. And the same for Grenada. Grenada is currently underpopulated. We have at any given time about 110,000 people resident here. And it's not enough for development, for economic stimulation, etc. We need more people. So I'm saying, in addition to encouraging more Grenadians to secure and be faithful to a partner spouse and have a solid foundation for children, right, to come in, let us not look too far now. You have the descent right there. You have persons who, as you said, you began the program by saying they heard their grandparents tell them stories. Some of them know a little patois because of their grandmother. They get a little Grenadian upbringing because of their grandmother, their grandfather. Why not allow our brothers and sisters the opportunity, if they want to return home, or if they want to have a second citizenship, they may, and then what would that do? There would be an economic spill off quite naturally. Instead of having to get an alien land holding license to get land, they could buy land just as a Grenadian. They may have investment properties here. They may have a second home. More persons are getting employed, more construction. I mean, when you look at it, it makes economic sense. So one of the things I will encourage in terms of a policy positioning, Section 5A can be amended to remove two things. One, this the 5A1C that says you must show that you be in service to Grenada, or you are in service in Grenada or would be. I understand, and again, this is anecdotal. This is a story that came in. One person in the Home Office told a grandchild that they would have had to be working in the Grenada Police Force, for example. Come on. The interpretation of being in service could mean so many things. Look, I started law practice in Barbados, and I was in service to Grenada from the inception of my law practice. It was always regional. I never practiced in one island alone, and so I was coming in and out of Grenada handling matters. Who was to tell me, for example, because remember, those of us who got scholarship, we had to fulfill a bond. Let anybody come and tell me that I was not fulfilling my bond at that time. Because you have CARICOM now, there's a regional aspect. We have to think forward. We have to. The Prime Minister said something in his anniversary speech, the independence speech. Grenadian and independence is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And we have to be forward thinking, and we have to also respect the gates, the ancestors. Respect the gates. Let us not turn away a legitimate grandchild. Let us not turn away children like the commenter here. Because her mother's name is Mary, so spelled differently to her name, you're telling her the mother has to get a deed. But what if the mother was have passed to the great beyond? And these are the what it calls for is a comprehensive policy positioning. And this is where public policy and solid public policy advisory comes into play. We need to put together a policy concerning opening the doors to allow for legitimate grandchildren and children to come in and partake of Grenadian. We are oil down. This is a pot of oil down that is happening. And let us not look at one and say, oh,
When you
that
say
don't clean too.
legitimate,
Legitimate
when you
meaning
say
because
legitimate,
they
you're
are
not contract.
fraudsters. They are fraudsters who will want to come and
Yeah,
fraudulently get
I
through the
follow you.
system. So that's what I mean by
Yeah.
legitimate, not on that right, not that discriminatory provision at all. Let me be clear.
Mhm.
Persons
Right.
who fraudulently, because like I said, Grenada citizenship is hot bread. I actually have an article that I want to post 10 reasons why the Grenada citizenship and Grenada passport is economically stronger than a United States passport. There are citizens in the United States right now that are getting Grenada's economic citizenship for that purpose, for economic planning, for tax planning, for international estate planning. So let us understand that this is an asset. Grenada and being Grenadian is an asset. So I would say I would encourage the policymakers to consider removing entirely this whole concept about will be in service to Grenada or intend to be in service to Grenada. I don't think that that is necessary. And I think that if that is removed, we will see uptick perhaps. I understand that there is a drive right now, I'm thinking June or July, where government is encouraging persons in the diaspora to return home. If we are encouraging the people to return home, right now, we look 52 years, huh? The
Yeah.
grandparents are dying out at this stage. Even some of the parents are dying out. So who are left? The Grenadian grandchildren.
Yes.
So allow the grandchildren to come through. Now, Ewa, before we end this conversation, I want to highlight something that we may have perhaps forgot to outline.
Yeah.
In practice, now, menu, the Constitution does not allow for a grandchild, a minor grandchild, or even an adult grandchild to get Grenada citizenship. However, in practice, and I must say, I must give it to the administrators, right? Touch them on the back. In practice, it is relatively straightforward for a grandchild that is a minor to at least get the Grenada passport, from what I'm hearing and what pertains on the ground. So there are grandchildren who are minors who have got it relatively straightforward. So, yes, even though the Constitution does not allow for that eligibility on the ground, in practice, there are grandchildren who have gotten Grenada passport. No, let me stick a little pin there. Let me stick a little pin there. Again, anecdotal. Another story came to my desk. A grandson, when he was a minor, he got his passport. During COVID or something like that, some sort of upheaval, geopolitical upheaval, he left Grenada, returned, and as an adult now tried to renew his Grenada passport that clearly states that he's Grenadian, and they told him no. So I am saying it's still not something that you can safely say, okay, I got my Grenada citizenship as a grandchild, and therefore I'll have it for the rest of my life. At least I'm telling you, in practice on the ground, it again, I said we need a comprehensive policy, citizenship
Yeah.
policy, and yeah, these are my comments on that aspect.
I think it's a generous interpretation and law number one of section 5 of the Citizenship Act, which speaks about the registering minor. It was very, very laudable if that's the approach. Aisha, you want to say anything at this point?
I just want to commend Johanan, for her advocacy in this area. It was Mr. Layne who brought it to my attention that you have been advocating strongly on these points. And I do certainly encourage you to write that article that you did mention, because I think this is an issue that we did not really realize was an issue until more recently. And in the spirit of independence and in the spirit of bringing persons back to Grenada who, rightfully belong here, I think this was an important and timely topic, and we thank you for your contribution to it.
You are most welcome.
Right. Before we close, I just want to recognize those sponsoring the program once again. Jail Professional Solutions Inc., Jim FM carried this program on FM radio out of Canada and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. So that's it for tonight. I will say one thing is clear from tonight: the issue of citizenship for grandchildren of Grenadians is not about emotion alone. It is about law, history, and policy.
Correct. And economics.
Yeah. Our current framework was shaped by independence, the independence era thinking, imperial nationality rules, and concerns that may no longer reflect Grenada's reality today. That doesn't mean the law is wrong, but it does mean we should revisit it. The real question for Grenada is this: do we want a citizenship regime based solely on narrow technical rules, or one that also recognizes connection, contribution, continuity across generations? That is a conversation for Parliament, for policy owners, policymakers, and the Grenadian people themselves as a whole. We hope tonight's discussions has helped you better understand where the law stands, why it stands where it stands, and what options exist. Thank you, Aisha. Thank you, Johanan, for your passionate delivery tonight. Thank you to all those who viewed the program and those who participated. And good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.